You're tuned into the Writing Community Chat Show, the live streaming YouTube podcast that brings you the stories of authors, screenwriters, and more. Indie or established, this show's for the community, and we invite you to be a part of it. Head to the writingcommunitychatshow.com for more info. The WCCS. Together as one, we get it done.
Hello and welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello everybody and welcome to this week's Writing Community Chat Show. My name is Chris and I'm here to deliver you another interview with someone who will provide lots of writing tips and advice. Is what this show's kind of all about. So I hope you're ready for that. And hello to you all in the chat. I hope you're doing well. The show is on, which means generally it does mean it's Friday and you've made it to the weekend. Although Mr. Hooley did have a great interview midweek, if you missed it, with R.W.R. MacDonald, who wrote this. This is the Nancys and the case of the missing necklace. A great book there. This was sent to us by Arenda with a bunch of other books, and they have agreed, the lovely Karen there, that we can do exclusive readings of these books that are not out yet. So if you're interested in that, there was a video out on TikTok about those that you can go and check out. So check that out if you haven't. Midweek show. It was on a Tuesday, I believe. You might notice he is not sat with me, and that is because about 20 minutes ago, he let me know he's stuck in traffic. So please send him some love. I'm sure he might make it, he might not. But either way, we've got a guest that will give you lots of insights tonight. Hello, Anya. Thank you for your comments. Happy Friday indeed. If you do have questions throughout tonight's show, please do put them in the chat and I will try and get them up on screen and we will answer them. If you are watching this back or listening back, thank you for doing so. And our Substack has got a new article up there about the joys of writing and the motivation. So if you're interested in that sort of advice, then please go and check out our Substack and kind of follow along there as well. Because we also put the shows up there and they get emailed out. So if you are someone who's quite a busy person and wants to get notified about that sort of stuff, then you can do through email, Substack, which is actually a great tool for writers if you haven't used it. So let us know how your week's been. What have you been up to? And more importantly, how has your writing been this week? For myself, who has been in a bit of a rut, which does happen to everybody, as does the procrastination sort of train that people talk about, whether you're a New York Times bestseller or an indie author. But that rut was undone and I got through a couple of chapters this week. So it's really nice to feel that productivity coming back, and that's been down to members of the community supporting me, the whole reason why this show started. So thank you to those people that encouraged me and kind of pushed me along in the right direction. My new crime novel is on the way, but it's early stages. But that's something that's taken a lot more time and preparation and a lot more planning, which is different to what I've previously done. So advice throughout this show. If you're new to the show, there are 360 plus interviews that have featured many authors, indie, New York Times bestsellers, celebrity authors, many people like that. And that has helped in enriching us with lots of writing advice. So yeah, thank you for those people. Happy Friday to you. I'm going to get tonight's guest on, and we're going to get stuck into a good conversation. So again, please do leave your questions in the chat. So listen up for this introduction. We are thrilled to welcome the CEO and publisher of Three Dragons Press. You can see the little logo up there. That's their logo. Elizabeth's story isn't your typical publishing background. Before launching her own house, she worked as an acquisitions agent for the legendary Beinecke Library, where she studied literature and history. But get this, she then spent over a decade in international economic development and transatlantic diplomacy, even serving as an advisor to Jake Sullivan. From diplomacy to publishing, Elizabeth's unique perspective, influenced by everything from Oliver Goldsmith to Thomas Wolfe, gives her an unparalleled vision for Three Dragons Press. Tonight, we're going to dive deep into that incredible career journey, discover the essential reasons why she started Three Dragons Press, and find out what authors need to know about literary development today. So Elizabeth Ferguson, please welcome her and give me a hand in welcoming her to the show. Hello, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Chris. I'm glad to hear you're through your rut. Can't wait to see your next novel come out.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's one of those things that when we get stuck in ruts, they're there, no matter kind of how much you feel like you want to get it done. But yeah, that has passed. Thank you. How are you doing?
Well, it's winding down. We made it to Friday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's so nice, isn't it? I mean, a lot of us work around our writing as well, and obviously in a big press like that, you're going to be very busy throughout the week. And I imagine the weekend in a press too.
Yeah, I have to make sure I have one day a week where I don't have meetings, just for sanity's sake. But
Yeah,
absolutely, I'm definitely moving like 12 different directions at once. But it's not boring for sure. I love that part of
yeah,
it. And talk about, creative motivation, seeing the motivation of new writers and new ideas coming together in their books is incredibly motivating. Just in terms of entering a creative company
yeah.
and needing that inspiration from seeing new ideas come to life is
Mm.
an incredibly way to get through my ruts when I get feel a roadblock.
I can imagine. Do you know what? It must be so amazing to work with writers on that side of the platform, because you know you're at the sort of apex of their dreams and their sort of aspirations, and you're that link between you know them in their small world. They're kind of stuck behind a screen. They're doing what they do for a long time on their own, maybe in the dark. But they get to a point where they work with someone like yourselves, and then suddenly they've got what they believe is a bit of hope for what they're trying to achieve. So that must be really nice to see their sort of change in character, or maybe blossoming into something more excitable.
Def Definitely a lot of enthusiasm, right?
Yeah,
And seeing, oh, somebody, and validation, seeing somebody
yeah,
believes that this idea I've had put up in my head for who knows how long is should make it into the world. Obviously there's the hard reality that when you sign that contract is when the hard work starts.
yeah. Of course.
So, it's also that kind of reality check of, oh, finishing the manuscript wasn't the hard part. Now we're going to get really grueling and, down to brass tacks of how do we, because the goal is to make every one of those stories shine and
Yeah,
make thousands of people want to read it. But we have to get to that goal. So it's certainly there has to be a lot of trust involved in that creative process. And
mm,
um, so the enthusiasm and digging into where the story is coming from, how well they know these characters is truly amazing. That's what I love about writers is asking that question like, so I know you know this character really well. You've written a book and a half about them. What is this character thinking right now? And I know many people here can relate, where those people become like your best friends.
yeah. Well, it's one of those. It's not a secret at all, but like you realize as an indie author that you start writing and you get into that journey, and it takes a lot of work and effort. But like you said, it's not the hard work starts after. And for a lot of us as indies, we realize marketing then becomes a minefield. So how do you kind of approach someone who is looking, or someone you're looking at signing? Do you ever think about their sort of social reach or anything like that, or is it a case of we'll take you on no matter who you are, and we've got our own processes?
Yeah, we are trying to create our own processes. And I know that I'm trying to build a new business model that becomes more sustainable for the publisher as well,
Yeah,
because publishers used to be able to offer a lot more support and a lot more platform building with the authors. And so that's a goal of, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole about, I'm going to want to we're working on a big innovation model that's kind of a next gen content platform where there could be some direct engagement.
mm,
And so that's obviously we could spend a whole hour on, but this is some of the reason is helping earlier writers be able to engage those readers and build that following and add addictive quality. Because I know that that's what indie authors really benefit is finding those readers who are just addicted to their latest stories and can't wait to see the next one come out. And so I'm trying to kind of build that into our our publishing company, so we don't necessarily need to only look for the big social media reaches because we want to help them build those audiences themselves. So fingers crossed. Those are very ambitious goals to try to accomplish, to try to move publishing back in a more creative and sustainable way. We'll see how it goes.
It's interesting because I watched a video the other day of Richard Osmond talking to someone, and he said publishing needs to get the head out their ass, basically, is what he said.
A little bit.
Yeah. So what do you think about that comment?
100% nail on head.
Yeah.
I mean, I launched our website this summer, but in the last 4 months we were in Frankfurt last month, just the conversations getting ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, when I run repeat comments to people in the industry, I get responses like, how is this our industry? And some people just have to bite their tongue because they have nothing nice to say. And so 100%, I mean, I was built around noticing publishing companies just missing the mark. So many books and writers, they come to publishing and they don't know what to do with them. So I think, well, I know what to do with it. So bring them to me. I'll take it. If it's a good story that I haven't seen 100 times before and isn't the next Twilight and isn't the next chasing trends, I'm here to set trends.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like every great bestseller broke boxes. Tolkien, Martin, they all did something new. And then publishing always tries to follow up by putting the writers into boxes and then expecting the same results. And I don't understand how that makes sense.
It's very apparent at the moment. And this is, I think it could be down to sort of COVID and writer strikes and all these things. But like what we've seen in media generally, sort of movies and TV, is a lot of regurgitation. And it feels like what they're doing is they're re-releasing something or remaking something that was a success because they know it's got a sort of a following. Do you think that's kind of what publishing industry is leaning towards?
Yes. I mean, I've had several meetings within the last month following up with people I met in Frankfurt. People don't need 12 Spider-Man movies.
Yes.
I don't. I liked the first 3. I don't need 12. I can't watch those. I mean, I liked the originally done superhero movies where it was adding some nuance to the character, but then and I know that we have plenty of comic Marvel and DC fans in the group, but I can't watch just more badly done ones that are released just for to meet the fan pleasing the fan. Sorry, but yeah, and that's where I get tired of seeing it in books and in movies, and so I want to create things I want to read. I want to create things that don't just replicate the same formulas over and over again.
That's kind of what my question was. Like you mentioned, putting things in boxes from the publishing side of things. Do you think that's what they're kind of doing? They're thinking this is similar to something they did well, so we're not going to take a risk on something that might be a little bit more original. We're going to go down that route and try and back up what we already know that works.
Well, you know, like right now, one of the biggest things publishers are chasing are trying to replicate the Mexican Gothic fan base. They're trying to find the next Mexican Gothic. But Mexican Gothic did something new, right? So they're trying to just chase, okay, that was a bestseller. We have however many 100,000 readers for that book. We want to just sell books to that 100,000 readers, not find the next thing that's going to do something new. And yeah, it's not a bad book. It was an amazing book. It did something new. It brought people some great, perspectives. It was a great book, well-written book, good writing. So it's just that if you try to just replicate that 100 times, you're not giving readers something new. They just get inundated with 100 versions of the same thing and lose interest. And then I guess publishing's mindset is, well, we'll just make money off of those 100 titles as long as we can so we can keep the lights on. But I would rather be successful doing something different than and doing things that people said they had no idea what to do with and proving them wrong when they're doing the same thing over and over again and still can't keep the lights on.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of interesting. I know on your website, I probably lose this comment right now. You mentioned about being different, and you're kind of describing it that way. So, as someone who's kind of created a press and is thinking, oh, I need to be different and give a better opportunity to people, what is your kind of ethos and sort of what are you thinking that will make it different and be a better replica of what is already there?
Like I said, looking for original writing. Again, people that push the envelope. Like one of our first writers is doing it's got all the foundations of a Gothic literature novel, but he wants to push it into the post-genre elements. So that become something new? Because if you're taking all of the tropes that survive in that and then breaking them, it becomes, it's new sort of thing. And the problem is a lot of readers don't even understand what Gothic literature is. And so if we could ground kind of the supernatural elements into the psychological horror element, people don't even necessarily need to know what Gothic lit is. If you give them the psychological horror that they love, they don't care what genre it really is because they're there for what they love. And that you can kind of interpret or cross genres in ways that introduce something new to people that may not even know what that genre is. And so that's kind of a lot of my perspective is make old things new again, or and then of course I'm working for people from other cultures. I've got a wonderfully brilliant writer from Kenya. Her writing reminds me of Jordan Flecko from a couple of years ago, who's an amazing writer. And so I'm like, oh, this has star bestseller potential written all over it. But we have to then keep her writing intact, keep the structure intact, but help the narrative and the themes within appeal to all the writers that want something new, that want new fantasy, but also want depth, want a strong woman's character, or want themes around women's struggles. And so you kind of can appeal to people based on what they already want and their appetites that are already existing within the market without making excuses like publishing does, which is something with that angle doesn't appeal to the mainstream. So my approach is take things and make them appeal to the mainstream that come from whatever culture, because publishing always uses the market numbers as excuses.
Yeah.
And when I look at my readers, the readers that I think I'm appealing to, they want cultural authenticity, and this is what publishing is missing. Culture, and this is a huge pain point that becomes really apparent, that there's no cultural fluency in publishing at the moment. I mean, there was, in Frankfurt, there was this publisher from Dubai who is representing strong Arab women voices. And for 2 days, she spoke to English publishers and got the same response, that those women needed to write about the West saving them. 2 days.
Wow.
Yeah, those are the kinds of things you just don't have words for. Like the colonialism covered as whatever. It's just like, let's decolonize publishing, people. This is nonsense. Like, how does this, it is not, when it's not just one publisher or one person within the industry saying it, when it's every person she talks to for 2 days having this consistent colonial narrative. I don't understand it. So, yes, I'm here to decolonize publishing.
Do you know what? I think kind of like traditionally, I think publishing is kind of set in a lot of traditionally, where it kind of, they want to stick to their sort of traditions, which is fine. A lot of things do that. But then I think the way time has moved forward, that they need to adapt, and people like these original stories and hearing about things they don't know about. And I think they're missing out on the fact that if they are trying to sort of not showcase these people from smaller regions or different regions that they might not necessarily read about, I think they're missing out on something.
Well, that's my perspective, but that's how I grew up. So for me, this is ingrained in my DNA. Growing up, I was exposed to folklore from around the world, whether it was China or Greece or Native American folklore legends. My parents had them all side by side on our bookcase. So that's just my background, that I was just exposed to every culture being something that should be respected equally.
Yeah.
So I guess so I bring that. That's my point of view, since I could walk, or however old. But yeah, as I said, it's just cultural fluency. It's it's approaching a lot of the publishers I approached in Frankfurt from some of these regions, just approaching them with respect and curiosity. Like, if I don't know anything about your culture, I'm not going to come in and tell you you should only write about the Taliban.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's what publishers tell.
But to us, that's common sense, right?
Yeah. So yeah, and they, I mean, the response is they're just so happy somebody loves whatever they're trying to publish, their culture, that somebody's curious and asks questions about it. It just lights people up from different cultures, that you just express interest and curiosity in what does your culture bring to the table? What stories can you share? Because there's going to be humanity's not that different from around the world, which is what I've discovered working in, international diplomacy, is that everybody has similar values around the world. And so no matter what your culture you're from, your legends can speak about the values from your culture that other people can also relate to, and kind of explore that culture through that lens and becoming accessible. And I think for me, that accessibility is what I talk about a lot, because I'm currently translating the first English edition of the most popular German woman 19th century writer,
Wow.
Fanny Lewald, that even Germans haven't heard of unless they've studied German literature. And whether I'm translating 19th century German or a woman from Kenya is trying to translate her culture, our readers today are not going to understand that natively. No matter where you're from, making that accessible sells the story, is my hot take before I start my TED Talk.
Yeah, that's fascinating. You mentioned there about kind of your previous work, and we just jumped straight ahead of that. And in a minute, I want to talk about how from the author's side of things do they get into a publisher's life, if that makes sense. But if we can rewind it a bit, can we talk about kind of your experience leading up to, through your careers, but how you ended up deciding that Three Dragons Press should exist?
Well, I loved working with the writers. I started working on an anthology about a year ago, and I was just looking for jobs to go back to what I was doing before the pandemic in international business, and loved working with the writers. The contracts weren't getting sent through, and I thought it would be crazy to start a publishing company, right?
Yeah.
Hella crazy. But when I looked, as I said, I looked at everything the publishers were missing. I just felt like there was a long list of things that needed to be out there and in demand, that the readers are looking for new things, that the readers are super tired of what publishing is giving them, and that there's a huge list to not only survive, but maybe thrive as a new publishing company if you can hit those notes. But I took a lot of the cross-cultural inspiration in when the Ukraine war started and the rest of Europe is coming to Germany they've been shouting at for 80 years to hate the military. And it's like, where are your weapons? Deliver them Tuesday. And that was kind of like a disconnect. And of course, everybody in Germany knew the cultural transition that was happening. And so that's my inspiration, is I think stories are simple ways for people to understand each other and can really improve. I mean, we live in a polarized world right now. I think it's what everybody's kind of longing for and needing is connection. And if you can understand your neighbors better, hopefully it cuts down on a little of the hate in the world. We'll see. But that lack of understanding I just throw Germany's history out the window. Don't give them a minute to kind of wrap their heads around, oh, you want us to have our military stationed abroad for the first time since World War II?
Yep.
Yeah.
Ooh, hang on a second. We might have an interruption here.
Oh, yeah.
Hello, Chris Hooley.
Hello.
How are you doing?
You're alive.
How are you? I am alive. Apologize for my lateness, but I'm here, and I'm here to enjoy a good conversation.
Well, we've had a fantastic conversation so far. We've talked a lot about the publishing world and a lot of things to do with that. So we're just kind of digging into the Three Dragon Press, why that's kicking around, and we've got a question in the chat which I'll ask in a minute. But first of all, Glad you could make it. How are you doing?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. Obviously, I was gutted to miss the start of the show because, it's not every day that we have a press on and someone with editorial experience as well. So, writing brain to pick and get some tips for all our listeners out there.
Yeah. So if I'm going to jump back into it, I'm going to bring this question up, and this is going back a bit. Anya says, I'm really curious about the literary aspects of the Hudson River School. I've studied the art historical side of the movement, but not the literary.
Nice. Oh, you really want to get nerdy with me. I love it. Yeah, well, I see it growing out of, so my literary studies kind of revolved around the evolution of the British novel. So kind of starting in the late 18th century, where of course you had a bunch of guys sitting around in the pub at Oxford talking about Pope and whoever else they're reading, and deciding that what the world needs is stories telling women they need to be virtuous or they won't be able to marry wealthy white men, because that's what the world needs. And then you had, Fanny Burney and Jane Austen and responding to that saying, wait a second, guys. And so you see this novel progression kind of throughout the 19th century. And then the Romantic period came along, and that was happening. And I feel like that's really where you see the intersection between the British literary tradition and the New England literary tradition, where you start to see that crossover. And I always see literature as a conversation. So as I said, I feel like if you know one popular author who survived the test of time, it's a window into whatever was happening literarily and culturally at that moment. And so I feel like this is a great representation where these were total crossovers with the artists as well. So you have, if you look at the Longstocking novels, those were set in the Hudson River area. And so you have the Hudson River painters talking directly with the novelists. And so you have this rich tapestry being built between getting to see and feel the awe of the Hudson River School paintings, but then also get to go explore the native territory along with this emerging, at that time, what was considered the frontier of the States. So yeah, it's fascinating to kind of dive into the cultural aspect of what that frontier life was like, and then see the grandeur of the painters at the same time. But that's what I love, is seeing that cultural dialogue between, and I think, as I said, going back to wanting to see in our books the cultural authenticity, to create a window into this moment in time and what's going on with us culturally around the world, that open up lenses and give us stories that everyone can relate to on a human level.
What do you think that the cultural view on the world now would be kind of diluted, but purely down to the fact that a lot of history, the people were in that history, they lived it, whereas now we can see a lot of it even further around the world? Does that make sense, that we've got such a broader view? Do you think that isn't quite as efficient as it was?
I don't fully understand the main thrust of the question.
Just so, like, for example, someone living in I don't know, in the Saxon era would, if they had written about that, they would know only what's in front of them. Whereas now we would be able to learn through social media, for example, or anything online, about different cultures and different experiences or histories or elements of our current history around the world. So do you think perhaps it was more accurate back then, down to the details of what they lived, compared to perhaps now?
Well, that is the culture we're living in, is a very interconnected one. And so, for example, and that's, I think, part of my point. I think we talked about publishing being very traditional. So in the literary world, there's a lot of tradition that says literature, to be literature proper, you kind of always have to have these literary references back to the classic era.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind of traditionally how that's been described. But as you said, we live in a very interconnected world where people from across continents and countries talk to each other about similar experiences in their lives. And so I think it's a perfect time to then redefine literature as literature is a conversation between what people experience culturally. And I can do that with a woman in Kenya basing her stories on her East African cultural mythos and traditions. And she could be talking to my memoir writers in North America um, who are minority women talking about overcoming abuse and manipulation. And those two women from totally different regions and totally different lived experiences could have a conversation with each other about what this means for women. And so you can have people from around the world who are now more interconnected than ever having these literary conversations with each other. And I think that's really exciting for me to feel like I have this opportunity. First Publishing says, no, this is our definition of literature, and people outside of that don't fit into it. And I'm saying, well, here's my new definition of literature from my point of view, that it's conversation, and I'm here to curate these different voices in this conversation. So let me show you. Let me show you that literature can mean something new. So that's my incredibly ambitious goals, as I've said before.
I mean, you've kind of answered my question a little bit there. I've got a threefold question, which is, how do you break the mold of the sort of traditional publishing? What's your aim, obviously, as a publisher? And then how dangerous is it for these people to be writing about the things that they are exploring in their work while still being in the midst of it?
Well, of course, that's something every writer has to take into account. I have a couple of submissions about women's memoir who already have Instagram followers of people who have lived through whatever trauma that they've experienced. So a lot of their stories are already very public already. So that's something like that they're already taking into considerations. I did have one submission that she was concerned about lawsuits. That's actually why she sought me out, because I'm in Germany. And if she's in the US, whoever she's discussing that caused the trauma that she experienced, it's going to be harder for them to sue me. It was the bottom line. But it's something I'm seeing in the US as well that I did not anticipate or plan for, or even was not one of my reasons for launching a new publishing company in Germany in English, which Germans love, but to me doesn't necessarily look completely logical. But this summer, I saw increasing concerns about censorship from the US. And that was a conversation I had in Frankfurt as well, where publishers are not getting censored necessarily, but because the administration is so honed in and has anything on their radar that's quote unquote woke, publishers could potentially publish material with woke themes and they won't be censored, but they fear lawsuits. And so publishers could potentially stop publishing as many of those voices if they feel like there's a lawsuit down the line. And so I thought, well, then I'm positioned very well for any authors in the US who are going to face any kind of censorship, where I'm trying to publish globally. I don't care where you're from. And your voice can still have a platform instead of being shut down domestically. But I don't know how that will fold out. But certainly every writer should consider, whatever dangers they might incur. I have a writer in Galilee who I really would love to get memoirs from, and she would obviously publish anonymously, because if she were to publish her cultural point of view, her family could be in danger. So I am hoping to build a next generation content platform that cybersecurity would be a major part of our tech stack, to make sure that whoever we're publishing isn't going to get doxxed, isn't going to have their identity stolen, or found out. And the harsh reality is, if I want to platform a lot of minority voices, they're already targets for a lot of harassment. In Germany, we have minority journalists that get 200 hate mail letters a day.
Wow.
And so that's just a reality that I'm trying to prepare for.
Yeah.
If these are voices I want to champion, I also want to give them safe spaces where they feel protected and feel like they have fans and not, be exposed to that kind of ugliness.
Can I ask, for someone who's writing then, who think they may be writing about something that might be remotely, potentially could get them in trouble, what kind of advice would you give them in that sort of...
Well, I love it. I'm a fire starter, so
Yeah.
bring it on. But as I said, it's because our point of view is not to be political.
Yeah.
We just want to publish the voices in the conversations, right? We want to be able to represent the entire conversation without an agenda. So, of course, anything that's a diatribe about why your specific political dogma is right is not what we're looking for. But, things that people are experiencing as a result of that, whatever dogma, I think are valuable voices that the world needs to hear. It is a matter of creating a great packaged story that people can relate to it, that people can access that narrative without feeling preached at and be able to, and this is all about what good writing's for, is to help you understand and relate to the character, right? So that's my encouragement, is create that character that people can understand and relate to. So from page one, they can jump into that character's shoe, feel the struggle and feel the goal, what that character is trying to strain against. So they want to read your story and then write an incredible story about it. That's
So
my simple.
You mentioned before about obviously literature sort of having that stigma attached to it, that in order for it to be classed as literature, it has to have like a nod back to previous works.
Right.
So what advice would you give to somebody to sort of be able to write modern literature in their own unique way?
Well, my point of view is don't try to copy anyone else. And, when you look at, as I mentioned this previously, if you look at Tolkien, he was not writing about anything else. He was writing mythology that he was building. If you look at George Martin, he was writing about the War of the Roses, right? So you have to have your own foundation. I'm trying to be like George Martin or I'm trying to be like Tolkien, because those are just copycat narratives. That if you want to write something new, pick something, a foundation that inspires you and is new, right? Do something new with that foundation. Like my writer from Kenya, who is building on East African mythology and ritual as her foundation. Well, let's build a world around that. And we can tell the narrative and the world as in a way that readers want, just like Martin and Tolkien built a world people wanted to read about, but have it be a very unique and inspiring idea. And I feel like if I might use language that can say, you're a fantasy writer, so use every trope in the kitchen sink, and that's not what I'm talking about. I have seen those things too. So.
As someone who puts yourself out there in terms of being the sort of publisher that can, bring these voices a bit of a light to shine on them, like, how do you manage that on a day-to-day in terms of, you must have hundreds of submissions or loads of writers that want to actually work with your company. So how do you sort of navigate the day-to-day and deciding which ones you're going to take on and which ones, unfortunately, you can't?
Yeah, the demand is incredible. As I said, I'm trying to build out and onboard a larger editorial team. But it's also, while I'm seeking funding and investment, it's also great validation for what I'm doing to show those investors that this demand is so high that it's kind of like that old saying from the movie, build it and they will come. Right? That, I can't take everybody. I like right now I have 3 manuscripts I'm sitting on that I want to accept right away, and I'm just trying to onboard some editors so I am sure we have a concept nailed down before we even pitch them an offer. And it takes a while, but obviously we're looking for ideas that sing, that are new ideas, but also can speak to each other. We have one trend that we've had a lot of submissions about, which I think is very current, is religious rot. So we've had a lot of different writers from different points of view, genders, cultures, writing about legacy religion, kind of moving away from authenticity, which is ironic because that whole legacy moving away from authenticity is also happening in publishing. So, but yeah, so a lot of great current trends that people are writing about these days. And so, as they said, they stand out when.
I didn't mean to confuse,
Yeah.
like sidetrack you with that comment. Anya says NK, Jasmine, and Saba. Is that how you pronounce that? Tahir have done really cool things with expanding the genre in new ways. Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's in January. Between my online and my in-person writing groups, I knew 6 people complaining that they couldn't get published because their writing is between genre. And they can't send it to fantasy or sci-fi because it's not fantasy or sci-fi enough. But they can't send it to literary markets because it's too speculative. So that's certainly an area that I want to kind of support. And I'm looking at how can I potentially in the future create workshops for those writers to help bring together community and connect with each other. And then have published authors who have already published, whose speculative fiction writing is already really, really strong, passing on those techniques to younger, earlier writers, because the first thing you have to do is make your writing really strong. That's how you sell whatever post-genre or way that you're niche that you're moving into. But I think that's, as I said, what writers are evolving into is still leaving publishing behind. And here, the envelope moving forward is where I'm trying to reside. I'm not trying to stay back here with where publishers are kind of stuck in their ways. But I certainly am looking that way, because I think that's one way that group of writers who are evolving, who talk to each other, who see each other doing new different things that don't fit into fantasy or sci-fi, if they can come together and realize there's a lot of them, because I think if I know 6 people, it's the tip of the iceberg. So that's certainly an area that I'd love to see explored more. And we've had some great standout authors that Anya mentioned already.
So if somebody submits a manuscript to your press, what is the thing that you look for that will convince you that maybe in the first few pages that book is kind of the one that you want to go with?
So on LinkedIn, we've actually explained our submissions process, because it's I'm recreating publishing from the ground up, because I feel like it hasn't been innovated in 30 years. The people in the industry spend their entire careers trying to figure out what the rules are, not how to break them.
I like it.
So my submission process is a lot more holistic. Here are every other publisher in the world. Cover letter. Don't like it. Oh, okay, cover letter's got me. I'll go on to the synopsis. Nope. And they stop reading. Okay, synopsis looks like it holds water. Let me check out the writing. First page. First page lost me. And they don't give anything a chance if they don't get hooked within those first 3 pages. And so I have questions on my submission form to kind of give me a feel for the inspiration and motivation behind this work. Tell me, and then of course a synopsis. Is the plot going to carry water? That's obviously an important piece. And then I ask for the first and last chapters. And I look at that entire package and I say, does this hold water? And can this person write? So it bypasses that. I actually made an offer where the first page was a mess, but the writing past that was amazing. And the person had the chops to carry the very ambitious manuscript that they sent me. And I made an offer on that manuscript, which I would have missed if I let that first page toss out the manuscript. And so we look at the concept, and we get some amazingly creative concepts. Sometimes all of the submission material is more exciting than the manuscript.
Yeah. If you had a manuscript and you looked at it and you thought, all right, there's errors in this, they kind of, it's not written the way I wanted to, for example, but I love the story. Do you think, like, from your perspective as a publisher, publishing house, do you think that, okay, this is good enough that we can almost like train that author, or is it a case that they need to come at their kind of A game, or are they moldable?
That's again something. This to me, for me, this relies on having a more sustainable business model to be able to take on writers at earlier stages. I mean,
yeah,
right now, currently, because publishing can't keep their lights on, they can't afford editors to help. And so right now, in legacy publishing, you have to have your manuscript ready to sell before they will buy it. As I said, that's where we'd like to change our model to make it more sustainable for both us and our writers. Because if you don't have money to polish your manuscripts and you just want to sell your book to make money, you're in this double bind.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'd like to be able. So our writers, we do take on earlier, which also means less competition for us, because if these manuscripts are not fully polished, then hopefully we'll be one of the only people bidding, and get some of these diamonds in a rough that other publishers would throw out, which might be bestsellers.
Yeah, of course.
So our goal is to work with the writers. Obviously, want to see, do they understand structure? Does the story, are the bones here? Can we work with the bones?
Yeah.
And do I see glimpses of what this writer is able to do? One of the writers that I did make an offer on, I sat on the manuscript a while because the writing was really stiff. And I told her that that's why I was sitting on the manuscript. And we met, we discussed a new first chapter. That a new first chapter was back to me within a day with the most powerful writing that writer had written. So that gave me confidence that yes, the writing is there. And then it's a matter of helping tighten it up, helping the story shine through even more. Because those are all things we can do. Knock on wood. I'm putting a lot of confidence in the quality of our editorial team.
Elizabeth, one of the sort of green flags that people have mentioned about working with a publisher is that they see your writing career beyond one book. But obviously with the subject matters that people may be writing about in that first book, it might be sort of all the trauma that they've overcome. So how do you then help that writer go from one book to writing another book, if that's the case, that a green flag is someone who's going to look at your career sort of long term? How are you sort of tackling that and trying to?
I'm honestly just trying to work on our catalog, building our catalog at this point. I do have a couple of writers who've already started second books. I don't know whether we'll acquire those or not. Those are going to be kind of as cross that bridge when we come to it. But if we're looking at memoir, so my perspective on memoir is Megan O'Rourke published a bestseller called The Invisible Kingdom that was about her own chronic illness experience, and then kind of what she put in the work to make it the story not about her own experience, but she really took her journalistic point of view into how does the medical community miss this. And when she was writing not only about her own personal journey, but the broader issue of medical communities missing chronic illness, everyone who had chronic illness or knew someone who had chronic illness wanted to buy that book. So practicing your own writing technique and writing about that chapter of your life could potentially be transformed to writing about a different chapter of your life once you've kind of developed that understanding. Because I've back and forth with her on whatever project she's working on, and she was potentially inspired to write one about her father. And so she was kind of dancing around that, but kind of driven by what next grieving my father's death, or what next chapter of my life can I apply everything I've learned from writing this particular memoir to the next one. And I think the reason I'm focused on memoir and fiction is because the narrative structures are very similar. And so if you're writing a nonfiction memoir, then you're already learning kind of plot techniques and plot development elements that translate to fiction very well. So there's a lot of, I think, for people working on their first book and wondering where they might go from there, I think there's a lot of potential, again, once you develop the writing and have written a deep story everyone can relate to, the sky's the limit. So you had some author advice questions for me, I think. And so I know that we're running out of, the time is clicking down, and I have not given Halo Scott a shout out yet. So I know she's here.
Halo is here. She is a great supporter of this show, and she would love the shout out. So yeah, please, if you've got a question for Halo, actually, this is the time. We've got 10 minutes left. If you have questions for tonight's guest and for us in general about publishing, about anything, please do send them in. And go, Elizabeth, with your shout out for Halo.
Well, I was preparing for the questions you sent me. You sent me what character would I want to take on an adventure?
Oh yeah, we do like that question, and I love to kind of mix it up. Sometimes it could be, what character you would take on a date, what character you would take out for the day, what character would you love to put into a story of your own, for example. And I'm going to let you choose from character from fiction, whether it's TV series, a movie, or a book. What character from fiction grabs your heart?
Well, I mean, there's kind of an archetype in some of the characters that I would pick for any kind of question answer. She is. But I was like, Trinity would be a great character to take on an adventure because she sees through bullshit. She doesn't ask permission, and she takes action. And I think Halo would agree with me. This should not be a side character.
Nice. Question from Anya. Sally's, Pepe's, modern, or bar? She'll know what I mean.
Bar. Garlic bacon all day long.
Garlic bacon? Like two of my favorite things in one thing.
Yes, and Bar puts them on a pizza.
Anya's seen Pepe's, as is Halo.
Yeah, but see, garlic bacon pizza blows everybody's mind.
Is that a pizza or a pizza?
Yes.
I don't know. Garlic and pizza. Yeah, that sounds garlic and
bacon
together. Mm.
Yes, and I don't eat a lot of pizza, but I would go to Bar for that pizza.
If we're talking pizza, so the big question is, we've asked it many times.
No pineapple.
Yeah, you dropped out my estimations there.
Sorry,
there we go.
Halo's going to check out now.
Yeah, well, speaking of Halo's got a question. So she says, what is the most inspiring story from people you've worked with?
Yeah.
Ooh, nice.
I mean, I've got 5 writers so far that all have an amazing story to tell. And then the ones I really want to acquire already. So, gosh. Yeah, so I actually haven't worked with her yet. There's a woman that I hope to do some workshops with. She's in Glasgow, and she's Mongolian, and I cannot say her name, but her last name is Ramsey, so I'll call her Ms. Ramsey. She is an activist and published her memoir, trying to translate her experience from Mongolia. She runs a group in Glasgow for Asian writers, how to kind of tell their stories. She's an activist that has gone around Europe telling them to stop using Mongolia or Mongol as a term for people with Down syndrome. And that all started she is a powerhouse, and it all started because her infant died. And so I hate the fact that she went through that, but the fact, like the amount of work that she's done, and that's not my story to tell, but I hope to feature her as like an expert in some workshops. But to me, that's very inspiring to go from that level of grief that I can't imagine to helping other people tell their stories and being an activist and doing away with bigotry. That's an incredible story that I could give a shout out to, beyond just my amazing writers currently that I could champion all day, because they've all got amazing stories, even if it's not that, deep or traumatic. They have the ability to tap into something deeper within the kind of the world around them and bring that into existence in their stories. And I think that's seeing that kind of ability to create creativity out of tuning into the vibes, the world, what's going on in the immediate vicinity is really cool.
Love that.
Nice. Thank you, Dino.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, you've got so many writers on your roster anyway at the minute, but if you had to elevate one of them that was going to be a guaranteed bestseller, and they were going to have plenty of success behind the book, who would you be choosing and why would you pick them?
That's like asking who's your favorite child, Chris.
Exactly.
Yeah, it is. Well,
I mean, I think I was talking to one of our flagship authors this weekend, and I said our two flagship authors have incredible imagery that would translate to film very well. I think I pick each book because of their own strengths. And so my writer from Ireland could potentially be the next Madeline Miller, and so that's obviously bestseller potential. And then, of course, my woman from Kenya, to me, she's giving me Jordan Ifleko vibes, which is a bestseller. And so I think all of my writers are astounding, and I pick them each because I see the strengths that they could bring to be outstanding books. Because right now, every book that I'm going to publish to be my first titles are brand ambassadors for me. So I'm trying to pick things where I have a clear concept of like, this could really be an amazing book. I mean, and when I run down my catalog to random people on the street, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to read every one of those books. So I'm like, well, that's why I picked them.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris, I was just going to say, take us into the mind of a publisher then, because we've heard this flagship author sort of almost brand in a way that, one or two authors become the flagship for that year. What's the difference between the flagship one that you decide this is going to be one that is it that you push that one more? Is it you put more money behind it? Like what is that about?
Hopefully we're going to be investing into marketing equally. So as I mentioned, I don't know if you're here, I'm translating the first English edition ever of the most popular 19th century woman writer in Germany, who also happens to be Jewish, who wrote about anti-Semitism 100 years before the war. And this is a literary event, right? So my goal is, like, every title that I publish, we want to level us up, right? And of course we have limited editorial resources. I don't have a team of 20 editors in my closet. So our goal is to space them out, right? So we can invest the editorial work to make sure that this book is at the level that we want to hit hit the market with the bang. And I don't know, and I was talking to one mentor in Frankfurt, and she said, but you're going to invest in building a platform for this horror writer, and those writers are not going to read this other writer that you're publishing. Why don't you just invest in one genre? And I said, well, I don't know, hedge my bets, but also if I'm given this book over here and I don't acquire it and I don't publish it, I won't get more writers like that. So I'm also kind of building the foundation blocks of saying, here's what I can do editorially. Here's what we can do as a championing literature and hopefully having better writing than some of the big publishers, better editing than some of the big publishers are currently offering. And then every book, kind of being the next bam moment of we're here to play. Because you asked me what my goal for success was, and that's my success is trying to become competitive with the other big publishers and showing them that success can be built on doing things differently, because people don't pay attention until you break a mold.
So 3 Dragon Press being the top 6, within the top 6, adding on to the top 5.
I'd be happy getting to Bloomsbury level right now.
Yeah. So we have, our time is basically up, but obviously the big question before that, we can wrap the show up. If people are interested in 3 Dragon Presses, 3 Dragons Press, how do they find out more information? How do they pitch towards becoming represented by yourselves?
Well, we do have a submission form. As I said, we already have kind of a log jam at the moment with our submissions process. But I do have, as I said, we're getting a sign-up list for our platform. Our platform really wants to be driven, which is down today, so please come back tomorrow. But our platform is really to gear toward community building. As I mean, you guys have done such a great job here of building writers and readers together to interact within kind of a Patreon space, but not just the ability to find more than one writer at a time is the goal. And so we are always getting people signing up to stay in touch with that community building process, because then they can stay in touch. We can give them exclusive updates about books coming out. They can meet some of our writers who can talk to them about teasers for some of the upcoming launches. So, becoming part of the community, getting to know our writers already is fantastic. As I said, we hope to support writers by offering some workshops and events too. All of you writers out there who are writing in kind of this amorphous speculative space where you can't get published, let's make all of your writing better. Like help strengthen your writing, so your writing that may not fit into a given genre can stand out on its own, because that's how you get that type of writing to get more recognition. So it was fantastic, guys, being here. I've been a fan for a while, so I'm so glad to get some back and forth. And thank you so much for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. Honestly, we normally have little videos in between. Chris is normally there for a longer chat at the start of the show. The fact that we just continued the conversation pretty much off script, the fact that we just had a natural conversation throughout is testament to you and your sort of knowledge and your passion. So thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you.
So thank you all for coming in the audience. Thank you, Anya and Halo and everybody who interacted. It was so fun to see you guys tonight.
Yeah, brilliant. Like I said, in the week, Chris had an interview with R.W.R. McDonald. Please do check that out if you haven't done so. And Substack, I mentioned, articles gone up on there. If you want to check that out, please do that as well. And of course, support 3 Dragons Press and our guest tonight, Elizabeth Ferguson. I will leave links in the description of how you can get in touch and find that, follow, stalk, whatever you want to do. Those people, Elizabeth and the company. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Please stay safe, and happy Thanksgiving to you guys in America.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your time with your family, and we'll see you all very soon. So from us, it's goodbye. Thank you very much.